The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with light and noise. Hundreds of alien leaders from different star systems had gathered to discuss one thing: Earth. The humans, small and primitive by galactic standards, had started building warships and defending their space borders. This was not normal for a species that had only joined space travel a few decades ago. High Commander Tuvok, a tall insect-like alien from the Jurek Empire, laughed loudly. "They still use bullets and fire-based weapons," he said, waving a claw in the air. "How cute! They think their toys can stop plasma strikes." Others in the hall joined in the laughter. The Valerians, with their glowing crystal skin, smiled with pride. One of them added, "Their ships still use metal armor, not even nanoshields." Another alien leader from the Draxon clan shook his head. "They build their machines by hand, like animals," at the back of the hall. One alien didn't laugh. Admiral Zell of the Zorth species sat quietly, his gray skin glowing softly. Under his hood, he spoke in a calm, low voice. "You laugh because the moment has not yet come." The laughter stopped for a moment. Some turned to look at him, confused. Then Tuvok laughed again, louder this time. "Oh please, Admiral, don't tell us you're afraid of these humans." Zell looked up slowly, his red eyes glowing. "I do not fear their weapons," he said. "I fear their silence, the way they say nothing but watch everything. They are not showing their true power yet." Another general from the Zorik Empire stood up, his body covered in black armor. "They have no true power to hide," he said. "Only loud machines and stubborn hearts. We have scanned every weapon they have. Nothing matches galactic technology. We can crush Earth in one solar cycle." In one corner of the chamber, unnoticed by most, sat 3 human diplomats. They had been invited out of formality, nothing more. Colonel Marcus Hale, wearing a simple Earth military uniform, watched the display quietly. He leaned toward his assistant and whispered, "They keep laughing? Good. Let them. Back on Earth." Plans were already in motion. Something big was being built deep under the surface of Mars. Something that didn't rely on alien tech or flashy energy weapons. It was old, brutal, and designed by humans alone. The aliens continued their jokes. "Maybe we should send them a gift, a real plasma cannon, so they know what power looks like. They probably think satellites are magic. Do their ships still use fuel?" Ha ha ha! Zell did not smile. He stood slowly, and the room went quiet once more. He raised one hand and spoke clearly. "I have watched them. I have read their history. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They build slowly, wait quietly, and then when the time is right, they strike." Silence followed his words for a second. No one knew what to say. Then Tuvok stepped forward, eyes shining with amusement. "Well then, let us wait for this strike," he said, laughing. "Again, let us wait for their big surprise." The room laughed once more, louder this time. But Admiral Zell turned and walked out of the hall. He had seen something in the human eyes. Something dark and patient. He knew the moment was coming. And when it passed, it would be too late. Colonel Marcus stood up and walked toward the exit. As he passed the laughing generals, he gave them a nod. No anger, no words, just a cold smile. They didn't notice the chip in his ear. They didn't hear the soft voice say, "Phase 1 complete." The humans had heard enough. Now, they would prepare. The galaxy had mocked Earth's weapons, but Earth had never needed approval. Just time, and time was running out. While the Galactic Council laughed and mocked, Earth became quiet. No protests, no replies, no warnings, just silence. The kind of silence that made smart aliens uncomfortable. Deep under the red sands of Mars, humans worked day and night. In secret bases shielded from all scans, they built something strange. Not ships, not drones, but weapons no one had seen. In the galaxy before, some looked simple, made of metal and fire. Others looked ancient like weapons used in Earth's forgotten wars. But they were not the same. Colonel Marcus Hale walked through a long steel hallway. Behind a sealed door was Project Iron Rain. He placed his hand on the scanner. Authorization. Hale, Earth Defense, Level Red. The door opened, revealing a massive hangar. Rows of strange launchers, tubes, and crates lined the walls. Scientists moved like shadows, silent and focused. Every weapon had no network, no signal, nothing to be hacked or scanned. They were invisible to alien AI. Beside Marcus stood Dr. Evelyn Rowe, the lead weapons engineer. "They still think we're primitive," she said, checking a control panel. "They believe we're building rockets and tanks like the old days." Marcus nodded. "Good. Let them believe it." Each weapon in Iron Rain had been designed by human minds who understood one truth. The galaxy relied too much on technology, too much on clean warfare, too much on logic. But Earth had learned in pain and fire. Wars where cities burned. Battles where soldiers fought hand-to-hand in mud. Victories not through power, but through will. Aliens did not understand that. They had grown soft with lasers and drones. They couldn't imagine someone crawling through snow for days. Just to throw one grenade, they couldn't see the value in dirty, ugly human warfare. In orbit, alien scouts still watched Earth. They saw factories running, but couldn't scan. The products, they saw soldiers marching, but couldn't read the signals. One alien commander reported back, "Humans are hiding something, but we don't know what." The council ignored the warning. "Let them play," they said. "Theirs. No threat, once we're ready. We'll wipe them out in one wave." But Earth didn't plan for defense. Earth planned to survive, and humans didn't need one wave. They only needed one chance, back on Mars. Project Iron Rain moved to Phase 2. Dozens of launch pods were hidden across the solar system on moons, asteroids, even old cargo ships. Each pod carried old-fashioned warheads, no AI, no signals, just pure destruction. And every one of them had a trigger that only a human hand could pull. "They'll never see it coming, Doctor," Rowe whispered. Marcus replied, "Because they're looking for signals, not shadows." Meanwhile, human agents moved across alien space. They studied how the galaxy fought wars, how their ships moved, how their shields worked. They found patterns, they found weaknesses, and they prepared weapons made just to break them in one hidden base on Titan. Soldiers trained inside old gravity chambers, learning to fight with no tech, no support, just skill and strength. One drill instructor shouted, "If your rifle jams, use the knife. If your knife breaks, use your fists." This wasn't modern warfare. This was survival. And humans were good at it. Some alien spies tried to warn the council. They sent secret messages. Earth is not what it seems. But their reports were lost, ignored, or deleted. No one believed humans could do anything clever. They were too emotional, too chaotic, too weak. That's what the galaxy thought. Because they only saw what Earth allowed them to see. But under the silence, the gears of war turned. Not with noise, but with purpose. Not with fire, but with cold planning, in one command room, deep under Earth's crust. A general looked at a single word blinking on the screen. Ready Colonel Marcus Hale stood before his team, pilots, soldiers. Engineers, each one trained for this one mission. "This isn't about showing power," he said, his voice calm. "This is about surviving, proving we don't need to. Be like them to win." The team saluted. The countdown had begun. The aliens thought they saw everything, but they never saw what humans had really built. Not weapons, not ships, but the moment. And it was almost here. The alien fleet arrived in Earth's orbit like a wall of stars. There were hundreds of ships, long, sharp, glowing with power. Some were the size of cities. Covered in energy shields and plasma turrets, they floated like giants above Earth, blocking out the sun in places. The galaxy had sent its strongest warriors, the Valarian dreadnoughts, the Durac shock cruisers, and the Draxon blade frigates. The Council called it a show of strength. But really, it was a quiet invasion inside the command ship. Hi. Commander Truvac stood proudly. "We'll give them one chance," he said. "Then we burn their defenses." He opened a channel to Earth's main communication grid. "This is the Galactic Council," he announced. "Surrender your weapons and your warships, or we will remove them by force." There was no answer, just silence. Truvac laughed and turned to his officers. "They can't even speak," he said. "Probably hiding behind their metal toys." But then, something strange happened. A single signal was picked up not from Earth, but from the edge of the asteroid belt. It was not a transmission, not a message, just a ping. Old, weak, almost like a signal from an ancient satellite. "Should we investigate?" one officer asked. Truvac waved his hand. "Ignore it, just Earth trash." But the ping came again. And then again, faster, louder, sharper. Suddenly, the fleet's sensors started blinking massive interference. "What's going on?" A Valarian tech shouted, "We're losing tracking systems." Truvac frowned. "Send a scout ship." One small cruiser moved toward the asteroid field. As it approached the source of the ping, it saw nothing, just rocks and dust. But then, flash, a single human missile launched from the surface of a large asteroid. It had no AI, no tracking, no guidance, but it moved fast, low, and silent. The scout ship tried to dodge, but the missile was coated in reflective metal and flew just. Under the sensors, it struck the ship's core, and within seconds, the cruiser was gone. The fleet panicked. Ships turned, shields activated, weapons charged. But more signals began appearing, this time from moons, old space stations, even hidden pods inside cargo debris. Each one launched a storm of missiles, simple, deadly, and quiet. No energy beams, no computer systems, just fire and pressure. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Some missiles split into smaller bombs. Others exploded near power cores, shutting down engines. One Draxon battlecruiser tried to fire, but its systems were jammed by magnetic bursts. Its main weapon backfired, tearing the ship in half. Truvac screamed, "How? How is this possible?" Inside the Earth Defense Command, Colonel Marcus Hale watched calmly. "Activate Iron Rain," he said. From Earth's surface, hundreds of metal pods rose into the sky. No engines, no lights, just raw speed. They tore through the atmosphere and launched toward the alien fleet. Each pod opened midair, releasing old-style warheads guided only by gravity and precision math. Alien ships fired plasma beams in panic, but nothing locked on. Their systems couldn't recognize the weapons. They weren't coded, they weren't smart, they were invisible. Two Galactic tech, one Durac captain shouted, "They're using ancient fire weapons." Another screamed back, "Then why are we losing?" Because it wasn't about the weapons, it was about when and how they were used in the chaos. A massive Earth-built cruiser appeared. It looked rough, full of armor plates and old metal. But it moved like a ghost through the enemy lines. No signals, no warnings. Just a giant cannon at its front. Truvac saw it too late. The human ship fired a solid slug, no energy, just pure mass moving at high velocity. It pierced the command ship like a needle through paper. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then the alien flagship exploded in silence from Earth. Marcus watched the destruction. He whispered, "They thought we'd try to match their power. We never needed to." The alien fleet broke apart. Some ships ran, others crashed into each other, one by one. The pride of the galaxy was reduced to burning metal and silence. High above Earth, human weapons, ugly, old. and Brilliant had won the first strike. Not with lasers, but with timing. Not with speed, but with planning. Not with AI, but with the mind of a human who knew war, and this. This was only the beginning. Space was quiet. The kind of quiet that felt like something had gone terribly wrong. Wreckage from the great alien fleet floated above Earth like broken bones. Burning metal drifted slowly, the proud symbols of many. Alien empires torn and lifeless, all across the galaxy. Panic started to grow. News spread fast. Humans had destroyed the fleet. But no one could understand how. Back on Valaria Prime, the High Council met in emergency session. Screens played grainy footage of metal pods, explosions, and ships tearing apart. No energy readings, no AI, a scientist reported. They used metal shells, fire, magnet stools we stopped using millennia ago. But how did they aim? One council member asked. They didn't, came the reply. They just knew where we'd be. Fear crept into alien hearts. Not because the humans had strong weapons, but because they had used simple weapons with terrifying success. In a quiet room aboard a damaged Jurek ship, a young officer sat trembling. He had survived the first wave. Barely, he whispered. They don't fight like us. They don't give warnings. They don't show off. They just hit hard, fast, and disappear on Earth. Colonel Marcus Hale sat in a secure command center. The room was full of silent officers watching alien transmissions. Every major empire was in shock. Some were already pulling ships back. Others denied it ever happened. But Earth wasn't finished yet. Have they sent a surrender message? Marcus asked. No, sir. An officer replied. Just silence. Marcus smiled slightly. Let them sit in it. At the same time, deep in the Zorth system, Admiral Zell stood before his own people. He had warned them, but they hadn't listened. Now, with half the fleet gone, the Zorth leadership asked for his thoughts. Zell stepped forward. Calm as always. They used patience as a weapon. He said they hid their strength not to bluff, or to wait for the right moment, and when that moment came, they didn't hesitate. They used ancient tools, one officer said in disbelief. Yes, Zell replied. And that's why they won, back in orbit near Jupiter. Earth's hidden fleet came out from the shadows. It was small, but built. With purpose, not to show power, but to protect. Human ships weren't shiny or smooth. They were tough, boxy, and armed to the teeth. Each ship was designed to survive, not win with one hit, but fight through fire and chaos. No fancy shields. No glowing weapons, just armor, speed, and a crew that knew how to fight with their hands if needed. Aliens started calling them ghost ships because they didn't speak, didn't light up space. They just appeared and ended things on the outer rim of the galaxy. A group of pirates intercepted what they thought was a small Earth cargo ship. They laughed and boarded it, expecting easy loot. They never returned. Later scans found the ship still floating. The human crew had left behind only one message. Scratched into the hull, try again. The galaxy's fear turned into something. Deeper respect, not for Earth's size or technology, but for its unpredictable spirit. In a secret Draxan meeting, one general slammed his fist on the table. We train to fight machines and energy storms, he said, not humans with metal blades and traps. They jammed our tech, fooled our sensors, another added. They use chaos like it's a weapon on a distant moon. A Zorth scout watched a group of human soldiers move through a snowy forest. No signals, no lights, just quiet footsteps and hand signals. He recorded everything, then sent one final report before erasing himself from the grid. They fight like ghosts. Meanwhile, Marcus Hale prepared for the next step. Iron Rain was not Earth's only card. There was more. Plans that had waited in silence for decades. He looked over an old map, one that showed more than just stars, It showed emotion, revenge, survival, pain. All the things humans remembered. All the reasons they never wanted war, but also why they would never lose one again in the quiet. Of the command room, he said to his team, "They thought we'd panic. They thought we'd scream, but we stayed quiet." Now they're the ones screaming, from that moment on. The galaxy stopped calling humans primitive. They called them something else, dangerous, and finally, respected. But the humans weren't done. Not yet, because the galaxy still didn't know what Earth could really do. The galaxy had built its armies on rules, on clean energy, fast computers, and predictable tactics. But Earth had taken a different path, a darker, older path. And now that path was open again. On a training field hidden beneath Antarctica, soldiers moved in heavy armor. Their weapons were dirty with oil, their hands rough with hard work. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Every motion was practiced, every weapon built by hand, checked by hand, cleaned by hand. No AI, no smart targeting, just eyes, muscles, and instinct. Colonel Marcus Hale stood watching from above. A younger officer walked beside him, looking nervous. "Sir, the galaxy still doesn't understand how we fight. That's the point," Marcus said. "They forgot how real war works, so we reminded them, across the stars, alien empires. We're trying to learn from their loss. They studied human weapons, machine guns, rocket launchers, stealth armor made from metal and ceramic. But they didn't get it because it wasn't just the tools. It was the thinking in Draxon military. Labs, scientists tore apart captured Earth rifles. They laughed at how basic the pieces were. No AI, no pulse signal, no plasma coil, one said. But when they tried to copy it, they failed. Their soldiers couldn't use them. They were too used to machines doing everything. Meanwhile, Earth soldiers trained in caves, jungles, deserts, and ruins, every terrain, every condition. They used maps made of paper. They sent messages by hand. They made traps out of wire and clay, and it all worked, because humans had never forgotten the art of survival in space. An Earth warship called Sundown ran silent through a nebula. It had no glowing engines, no signal trail. It hunted like a shark, quiet, patient, deadly. Inside, a crew of only 30 ran the whole ship. Each one trained to do 3 different jobs. The captain, a woman named Renee Joss, spoke softly. "We'll do this the old way. No computers, no targeting." Assists, they approached a massive alien freighter guarded by 2 sleek Valerian escorts. The enemy relied on scanners and drones. But Sundown used nothing but heat trails and instinct. Renee gave the order, "Fire coil 3. A solid shell launched, no light, no sound. It struck the freighter's engine core. Boom, the explosion lit up the nebula like a small sun. The escorts panicked, trying to find the human ship. But Sundown was already gone, slipping into the mist. The Valerian commander screamed into the comms. "They don't follow any protocol. They don't follow rules." Exactly, back on Earth, Dr. Evelyn Rowe stood in a dark lab filled with strange machines. Some were new, some older than spaceflight. She touched an old knife resting on a metal table. "This," she said, "was used in Earth's first wars." "It still works," a student asked. "Why go backward?" She answered, "Because they only studied the future. They forgot what the past could teach. Alien empires tried to adjust. They built new training programs, tested simple weapons, but their soldiers were slow, soft. They needed machines to think for them. They couldn't feel the weight of the fight." One Valerian commander complained, "Our warriors can't hold rifles for more than 10 minutes. Their arms ache." Meanwhile, Earth soldiers were running 20 kilometers in armor, then doing it again, carrying wounded. Not because they had to, but because one day they might need to. The Zorath watched quietly. Admiral Zell, now respected across many systems, whispered, They are not strong because of their weapons. They are strong because of what their hands remember. Marcus. Hale stood before a room full of young recruits. He didn't show them advanced plasma guns or AI drones. He held up a simple combat knife. "This," he said. "Won more battles than most of you can imagine, because it never runs out of charge, and it never lies." The room fell silent, because they understood. Earth wasn't fighting for power or land. They were fighting to be left alone, too. Survive, and they were ready to use everything the galaxy had forgotten. One alien message intercepted from a secret channel read: "Humans don't evolve forward, they evolve sideways, and when they hit, they don't miss, they've forgotten." Art had returned, and it belonged to Earth. Krennic's Hill was not a famous place. It was just a rocky rise on a cold moon near the outer rim. But after the fall of the fleet above Earth, Krennic's Hill became the last hope for the broken empires. They gathered there, the survivors, the wounded, the desperate. A new command center was built in a cave beneath the hill. Alien leaders from 5 major systems came together. No longer proud, no longer laughing. Only silent, bitter, and afraid. General Kovar of the Draxan slammed his claw on the metal table. "We will not be humiliated again," he growled. "We strike now with everything." Admiral Zul of the Valerians shook her head. "They don't fight like us. Kovar, we came with machines. They came with ghosts. Still, the plan was made. The last elite army, almost 20,000 alien soldiers, would land on Krennic's Hill. There they would face the humans in a final ground war. And this time, they swore they would not lose. But the humans had already arrived. They came not in grand ships, but in dropships that landed silently in the night. Their numbers were smaller, only 4,000, but each soldier was trained to fight 3. No drones, no AI support, just rifles, grenades, old traps, and sharp eyes. Their commander was a quiet man called Elias Ward. He stood on the edge of the hill. "Watching the alien forces move in, they've come with honor," said one of his lieutenants. Elias nodded. "And they'll leave with pain, down below." Alien troops marched in clean lines. Their armor shone, their plasma rifles hummed. They looked like giants, but they were loud, slow, and too perfect. At midnight, the first shot was fired, not from a rifle, but from a tripwire trap hidden under dirt. It blew apart a small group of scouts. The alien army paused, confused. That's when the humans began. Bullets cracked through the night like thunder. Explosions echoed across the frozen hills, and shadows moved between rocks. Faster than the eye could follow, General Kovar screamed, "Form up! Advance!" But every time they moved forward, another ambush hit them. Grenades rolled under their feet. Knives came from behind. Soldiers vanished into the dark, never to return. The battlefield became a nightmare. Alien plasma guns lit up the dark but hit nothing. Their sensors showed false images, their comms filled with static. A young Valerian officer whispered, "It's like they're everywhere and nowhere." His commander replied, "They fight like animals." "No," the officer said, shaking, "they fight like hunters." High above, Marcus Hale watched the battle unfold on a silent screen. He didn't send orders. He didn't need to. His soldiers already knew what to do. They had been trained for this moment since the beginning. Back on the hill, Elias Ward crawled through snow. Dirt on his face. He moved like part of the land. He planted another trap, then whispered into his mic. "Line 3, shift east, there. Pushing hard on our right, in the alien command center below." Panic was growing. Zul shouted, "We're being torn apart by half their number." Kovar roared, "They have no honor." Admiral Zell, who had arrived as an observer, stood up. He said nothing. He simply walked to the exit. No one stopped him. Outside, he watched as alien forces broke rank. Some ran, some fired wildly into the night. He saw a human soldier appear out of a crater. Fire one shot, then vanish again. They move with purpose, he whispered. They fight not to win medals, but to make sure we never return. By dawn, it was over. The last alien banner fell in the snow. The remaining commanders surrendered. Some wept, some stared in shock. None could explain how it had happened. Elias Ward stood atop Krennic's Hill. Smoke drifted around him, the ground littered with broken armor and silence. He took off his helmet, looked to the sky. Never again, he said. His voice was quiet, but the whole galaxy heard it. The fires on Krennic's Hill burned low. The snow had turned black from ash and heat. Alien machines, once proud and polished, now lay shattered beneath human boots. The battle was over, but something bigger had just begun. All across the galaxy, silence followed the news. No more jokes, no more laughter. No one mocked Earth's weapons now. They didn't dare. Every empire that had once laughed at bullets now studied them. Every council that ignored Earth's silence now feared it. The galaxy had been forced to remember something it had forgotten. That war wasn't about who had the brightest light. It was about who could hold the line when everything else fell on Earth, in a quiet room beneath the Capitol. Colonel Marcus Hale sat before a simple wooden table. No screens, no flashing lights, just him and a pen. He wrote a message short, clear and strong. It would be sent to every star system, every species, every leader. We do not seek to conquer, we do not seek to rule. But if you come to break us, understand this: we remember what the galaxy forgot. We remember the moment, and we will never let it pass again. Back on Krennic's Hill, human soldiers gathered what little they could carry. They buried their fallen, not with machines, but with their hands, each grave marked with a simple stone, a name, and a small flag. No music, no speeches, just silence. The alien prisoners watched from behind their broken lines. Some stood in shock, others cried. One Draxan officer asked a human, "Guard, why do you honor your dead like that?" The guard answered quietly, "Because they gave us the moment." Admiral Zell returned to his homeworld alone. He entered the Zorth Hall of Memory, where the wise walked in silence. He removed his admiral's badge and placed it on a stone. "They did what I feared," he whispered, "and what I respected." The younger Zorth around him listened carefully. "Never judge power by size," Zell said. "Never mistake quiet for weakness. And never mock those who still remember pain." In orbit, the sundown ship remained on patrol. Captain Renee Jaw stood at the viewing glass. She watched the stars in silence, not waiting for war, but watching for arrogance. Her crew didn't celebrate. There was no victory parade, only quiet maintenance, more training, and old music playing in the background. Because humans understood peace only lasted as long as the memory of war, alien news channels changed their tone. They no longer called Earth a primitive world. They called it a legacy world, a planet that had survived its own darkness and come out stronger. Some planets tried to copy Earth's tactics. They failed. Because they still wanted to win cleanly. Earth never cared about clean. Earth cared about final. The Galactic Council was never the same again. New laws were passed not against Earth, but about them. No species shall engage with Earth in mockery. No weapon used by Earth shall be measured by known tech. And finally, if Earth goes silent, prepare. In schools across the stars, alien children were taught new history. Humans once used fire, the books now read, but they learned to use silence back on Earth. Marcus Hale walked through a quiet garden. He passed by a group of young cadets training with rifles and knives. One cadet asked him, "Sir, why don't we upgrade our weapons to alien tech?" Marcus smiled, slow and tired. "Because alien tech makes you lazy, and our tech, it makes you ready." The cadet nodded. Not because he understood yet, but because he would. In the center of the garden was a small stone etched into. It were just 6 words. They mocked us till they didn't. It became Earth's new shield. Not a weapon, not a wall, but a memory. And in the end, that memory was stronger than any laser. Because when the moment came, the galaxy hesitated. And the humans did not.